What was that? I'm grossed out, but also strangely entertained. I'm reviewing Netflix's Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. Hey Twisted people, it's your Twisted Girl next door here, Chauncey K. Robinson, and today I'm reviewing Netflix's Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. Now, the way this goes is I'm going to give my pros, cons, trigger warnings, my emotional carnage damage report, aka how is this movie going to make you feel, and finally, my twisted final grade. Addicted to technology, a group of teens attends a rehabilitation camp in the forest, but a sinister force there intends to take them offline forever. Personally, I'm a big fan of 80s slasher horror flicks, so I definitely dug the callbacks that were kind of intertwined throughout the film. And there were even actual references to certain films by some of the characters because, it's taking place in present time. So of course, many people are well aware of horror, and the movie doesn't act like no one's ever watched a horror film in this movie at all. So there's references when things happen to things not to do in a horror film. So in that sense, I feel like this movie was somewhat self-aware enough where I didn't feel like it was copying 80s slasher horror flick cliches or tropes to the point where it's like, okay, you just basically kind of took this and just redid it and I could have just watched an original 80s slasher flick. I think in this sense, this movie was aware of what it was doing. There are some cool kills and even more gruesome killers. Can we give it up for practical effects in horror movies? Yes, yes, yes. If you've seen some of my reviews, especially with ones with horror films that have a lot of CGI in it, then you know that I am not a big fan of overuse of CGI in horror films, mainly because I just don't think it's necessary a lot of the times. And I think a lot of the most effective horror films are the ones that rely on more practical, tangible effects. And this movie definitely delivers. Oh my gosh, this movie definitely delivers. And so if you're someone who likes body gore, then you will enjoy this. If you love the carnage, if you like watching it. But if you're kind of like me and you lean on the idea of not wanting it so much in your face constantly to the point where you can't even pay attention to the plot because it just seems like every other scene is blood splattering and whatnot, then you can also enjoy this too, because it's not really excessive, but when it happens, it is like gruesome horror art in a way. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it's just like, when you watch a horror movie, when the kill is almost like, yes, that is good. Now, that might just mean there's something wrong with me. I don't know. But I actually really enjoyed the kills in this movie. I thought they were done really cool with great practical effects. I think these killers that ended up being what we see in the movie, without, spoiling it, they're worth the wait in terms of when you get to see them. This movie also has very cool social commentary. Now, this is an original Polish horror film. So that means, one, that this is not filmed originally in English. So I watched it with English dubs, and I will say, if you're going to watch it with English dubs, it's not really too much of a distraction. It may be a distraction if you put the words on the bottom and the English dub, because we all know, for whatever reason, the English dubs never match the captions. I don't know what that is about, but it's not too distracting. But with that said, it takes place in Poland, and it actually has some really interesting social commentary on what's going on in Poland. And one could say what's going on in a lot of parts of the world right now when it comes to far right extremism and when it comes to homophobia. And there's some really cool commentary intertwined, not so much where it takes away from this being a slasher flick, not at all, but it's actually sprinkled very well throughout. So you kind of have an idea of where you are. You're in Poland, what's going on there currently, but in a way that also just kind of is like, okay, it's still in the world that you live in. You can't just totally tune everything out. And I actually really appreciated that. This movie is too long. Oh my gosh. Why is a slasher flick almost 2 hours? What is this? A Marvel movie? No thanks. No thanks. You don't need a slasher movie to be that long. You just don't. Come on. It's like, the movie was an hour and 45 minutes, and it didn't use the whole hour and 45 minutes efficiently enough where it was justified. There were a lot of pockets of air in this movie. There were moments where there was just such a long shot. And I was like, if they cut out that long shot, they could have saved themselves about 5 minutes. It's a big detractor for me when it comes to this film. There are some cliches in it, but like I said, once again, if you're looking for something totally original that you've never seen before, this ain't that movie. The trigger warnings in this film are displays of homophobia and animal death. The emotional carnage of this film is that it may hit you kind of close to home in a variety of ways. One, when it talks about the really strong homophobia going on in Poland, and let's be honest, in a lot of places around our world. And on the other end, the far right extremism of hate ideology, of, the Nazi sort of vibe and things like that. You may feel some type of way watching it, especially with what happens to certain characters dealing with those sort of issues. And so if you don't kind of want to be reminded of that, you may want to avoid this movie. It's not so heavy-handed that it'll like damper your whole mood towards it, but it's there enough where it can probably kind of make you feel a little some type of way given what, the world is dealing with. Not to get on my soapbox, but there is a growing far right extremism that is happening. And so this movie does tap into that a little bit in a really subtle way, and in a slasher flick of all places to find it, but it's there. And so you may feel some type of way. You might get a little frustrated. You might get a little angry. My twisted final grade for Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight is C+. Okay, Twisted people, so that is my review of Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. I dug it, but there were some negatives for me that lowered its grade. Let me know if you've watched Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. Comment down below with your thoughts, and also your thoughts on practical effects versus CGI in horror films. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. And also, be sure to subscribe so that you are the first to know when I post my videos. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.